Dave, if you would please, pull up an email. I just sent it to you, like maybe 10 minutes ago. It should be right at the top of your inbox. It's from me. There's a link in there if you would click that. Of course, you can open it on your phone, open it on your laptop, if you want, whatever device you like, whatever device you're most comfortable with. How many people we have today? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I need to forward it to Grace. Yeah.
Yes.
It's fun in the morning. I have no time to do anything. So like I come in here and share all this stuff. And like my hair's on fire basically. So I normally just don't think to send it to Grace. But we've resolved the issue. Okay. Now, as you're opening that up, you may, some of you, at least those of you who were here last week, may recognize some of the material here. What you're looking at is sort of 3 blocks of text, okay? I teach 3 1101s. The exercise we did on Wednesday, I know that's been a minute, but if you recall, we got into groups. I had you guys do your best to generate critiques as a group, and then we focused on really one as a class and shined it up and talked about what is critique and what isn't. And I saw a couple light bulbs go off in some of your heads. Like, oh. So I thought it was pretty beneficial. I do that exercise all the time. It tends to be pretty beneficial. Why do I say all that? Well, what we're doing today is something I've never tried, but struck me that it could work. Mostly because it's connected to an exercise that always goes so well that we did Wednesday. Now, what are we doing? What's in front of you? One of those blocks of text is from our class. That's the one we shined up. We made real pretty. Now, I'd have to use my memory, but I believe it's maybe the top one. I think it might be the top one, number 1. Either way, the other 2 are from my other classes. So what that means is all of my classes went through the same process we did. We generated critiques. And by the way, when I say you all do this, I don't know if you remember that from Wednesday, where we had that moment where you're like, wait, I'm doing it wrong? Yes. Every class, I had the same exact moment. I got to say to every class, you all do this. And I mean, all of you, okay? So if you felt bad in that instant, don't. You're not alone. But the good news is now, we've overcome that hurdle. All of these, to varying degrees, are proper critiques in the way that we talked about on Wednesday, okay? They all examine some specific element from the text, and they offer a bit of rhetorical analysis of that element, and then we take that next step where we offer a critique of that rhetorical function, whatever it might be, okay? Madeline.
Yes.
Nice. So what we're going to do, now that hopefully you have the proper context, the first is going to be on me, and I'll figure that out here in a second. We're going to group up a little bit. We're going to stay spread out, as we are, okay? But we're going to group up a little bit, similar to what we did on Wednesday. The trick today is, rather than sort of working on the beginnings of body paragraphs, which is what these ended up being, right? We're going to move from that conversation to, well, how do we make an introduction out of this stuff? Okay? As a class, hopefully by the end of today, we're going to build an introduction. We'll see how we do. To begin with, and I already counted, but I don't remember numbers, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh, even. Okay. We need 3 groups, so we'll do, all right. You guys stay over there, and you 3 stay here. What I'm probably going to do is have you guys sort of migrate over there in pieces. Yeah. All right. You 3. So 2 in the back, and Curtis will be a group. Tavis? It's Tavis or Tavis? That's what I thought. Okay. Didn't want to keep calling you the wrong name. If you will, here in a moment, join this group in some capacity, okay? And then Jordan? Yeah. Sweet. If you would, join that group in some capacity, okay? All we're going to do as a group, I like to write down the steps because I forget things too. I want you to think about a couple things when you're looking at your assigned sentences, I suppose. I don't know what else to call them. I want you to pinpoint what the evidence is under discussion, okay? There should be one thing in your text that you can say this is what we're pointing at in the documentary, this one element, whatever it is, okay? I want you to discuss as a group, are we offering a critique of that evidence? And if so, what is it, right? Because that is the paper we're writing, that's our whole job. And then number 3, and this will be the part that takes a little bit of time. As a group, come up with 1 to 3 sentences. No more than 3, but maybe more than 1, go crazy. That sums up that critique to the best of your ability, okay? We're gonna do that as a group, so no one's gonna feel too much pressure, I think, individually. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So, all right, real quick. Tavis, if you go ahead and move over here. Jordan, if you move over there. I guess we'll go clockwise. So you guys will have number 1. This group in the middle will have number 2, okay? And then you guys over here will have number 3. And again, all you're looking to do, pinpoint whatever evidence is under discussion in your section, okay? Think about, is there a critique, okay? Spread out just a wee bit more. You guys are freaking me out. 2021, come on. Is there a critique, right? And then finally, to the best of your ability, sum up what the argument is. What critique are they making? How are we going to put that into 1 to 3 sentences? So take a couple minutes, read over your stuff, talk amongst yourselves. We'll figure it out as a class. All right, while you guys are finishing those up, very briefly, we hope. We talked last time, because we were focused on body paragraphs, about the construction of body paragraphs. That's the 3 I's, right? Topic, sentence, evidence, analysis of that evidence. We talked about that last time. This time, we're focused on introductions. So, of course, different template. Does anyone remember any of the sort of mechanisms or parts, I suppose, of an introduction? I know all of you know at least one. How do you build an introduction? What do you need?
Thesis.
Yeah. That's the one that I was like, you guys know that one. You know nothing else maybe in this class. You know you gotta have a thesis in the introduction, right? You know that. Okay. What else? Body paragraph, but I appreciate the attempt. Again, body paragraph is topic, sentence, evidence, analysis, right? Or the 3 I's if you like. What's up? Yeah. Where's that go? You poor boy. You poor, nearly correct boy. This is at the end of the introduction. Therefore, everything comes before. Roadmap is right before. We'll talk about that in a minute. What else? There's 2 more. There's one you guys love.
Argument?
What?
You got an argument?
Strangely, you guys don't love that one. I wish you did. I would like for you to have an argument, very much. Mostly in the roadmap and the thesis. But that's what I want you doing like the whole time, right? It's not really a part. Yeah, what's up?
Connect it into the first body paragraph. So
Huh?
like, find a sense to connect it into the first body paragraph.
You talking about transitions right now, dog?
Yes, sir.
Again, I would love transitions, but that's over the horizon for us right now. If we all get to a place where we're working on transitions, that's me signaling to you that you guys are crushing it. So we're not there yet. That's not a part in the way, like that's a part of speech. Again, I would love for you guys to move between ideas linguistically. But we got bigger issues. Primarily, the 2 parts of an introduction we have failed to name so far. How do you start a paper? You guys love this.
Huh?
Yeah. Acting like you don't know things. I always put a question mark because it's optional, but you guys love it. You guys love it. Hook. Okay. Before the roadmap, before the thesis, you need one more thing. You got to introduce me to something. What?
Introduction to the idea. No,
What did that guy say?
it's an introduction to the idea.
The idea. Kind of. How are you going to talk about an idea? How are you going to talk about anything?
A summary.
Okay, of what? The what?
The summary of the hook.
What does that mean?
Like
you gotta sum up everything that you mentioned.
That you just said?
Yeah, I guess.
Why would anyone do that? What are you going to sum up to me? How are we going to talk about
Others.
ideas?
I think you gotta sum up everything that you're supposed to mention.
I'm going to help us all out and just say no. You might mean something, but no. You have to introduce this before you can do anything else. You have nothing to talk about if you don't introduce this. When you start your introductions and you write your hooks, your glorious rhetorical questions and your anecdotes and what have you, immediately after that, you're going to have to do what? About what? There, we introduce the text. I don't give a damn about your ideas if they're not tied to the text. Because that's what we're here to talk about, right? You can have the best ideas in the world. If you don't introduce the text, they're not going to be tied to the text. They will not matter insofar as this assignment is concerned, okay? And you could summarize the text a little bit, right? Not a lot, 1 to 2 sentences. Let us know what we're looking at. Yeah. So a hook if you want one, but the other 3 are required. In the social dilemma, things get crazy with social media and phones, right? A little more specific than that, but you get it. Roadmap is where you sum up your ideas, your arguments, okay? Because you should have a few, you should have a small handful in a paper of this size, and they should be specific. We're not going to have room to really get into them in the introduction, right? So you kind of sum them up here. And that's to help us, among other things, better understand what the thesis is all about. Because the thesis is going to sum up your whole paper in like 1 to 2 sentences, something like that, right? Gonna be hella vague. Cool. All right. With all that said, we're gonna see what you guys have wrought here. Oh, you cruel bitch. All right. Now, I told you at the start of class that what we have here, what we have in front of us, this is you guys summing up to the best of your ability the arguments up here. Yes?
Oh,
So what,
no.
I don't like that. Oh. So what would you imagine if I also told you we're building introductions? What would you imagine these are meant to help us build when it comes to the intro? We can try a process of elimination. It's probably not a hook. Yeah, that's way too much material for a hook. It's probably not introduction of the text, because none of you have done that, and I didn't ask you to. Well, now you got a 50-50 shot. Right? What are we building here when it comes to the introduction? We're summing up these 3 different arguments that are more or less going to make 3 different body paragraphs in our paper, right? What part of the introduction have we started building, do you think?
Thesis?
Hopefully it'll come to that. These are way too, I mean, you're going to, if we just jammed all that together like a crazy sandwich, that'd be a bananas thesis, right? What is this? I love to recap for you guys. We just named the 4 parts of an introduction. And if you were paying attention, and it seems like some of you weren't, we just eliminated 3 of them. Therefore, look at you. All I kept thinking is like, if school were an escape room, you would all die, right? Like, I don't know. Yes, we're building a roadmap right now. This is above and beyond the biggest place you guys struggle in your introduction. Again, I have theories as to why. Largely it's because all you've ever written in your life is in-class essays, and you don't have so much time for that nonsense, right? You were taught that the 3 prongs in an essay are enough. They're not nearly. So this is what we're focusing on today. If we can get a solid roadmap, we can probably get a pretty good thesis. And the rest of it, I honestly believe you guys on your worst day can handle it. You can give me a serviceable hook. You can introduce me to the text, right? But we're focusing on the roadmap, and if we have time, thesis. Now, some of you are funny, and I say that with love. I was very interested to see how you guys would approach this assignment. What we're going to try to do, I'm going to eliminate some space in between us. I know I moved you guys all around earlier, and I apologize. But just so we can look at these things together, we're going to go one by one, okay? And in the same way, I keep using the verb shine. We shined them up on Wednesday, right, to get them more into the shape we want them to be. We're going to do the same thing today. Number one. Oh, and I should say this. If, just on your own, you need to quickly refer back to the previous page, just to like double check what they were working with, it's right there for you, okay? I just want everyone to know that. All right. Number one, by watching the movie, which was literally a social tragedy for this generation, that's a fragment. Okay. This documentary shows how a device can literally, you gotta stop doing that. We'll just stop that. We will literally stop that. How a device can control the youngest of minds and emotions. Technology is harming the youngest of... Alright. We're going to have a quick lesson on writing. We don't have nearly enough time to do this in class, usually, but I'll give you a quick lesson. All of you have tics. T-I-C-S. And when it comes to writing, I don't know you in your personal lives, okay? These are comfort zones. The reason for this, and again, there's always a couple, but the primary one is when you're speaking out in the world to your friends or your enemies, I don't know who you talk to. You have to do it on the fly, right? As a result of that, or rather what that means is you can't edit, you can't go back usually and say, hang on man, all that stuff I just said, I noticed it, let's do it again. Like, that would be odd. No one lives like that. So we allow, in conversation, for little errors or repetitions, right? But when you're writing, it's on the page forever when you give it to somebody else. And ideally, you've had time to go back and look at it. So we don't allow for nearly as many repetitions, errors, things like that. Two things about whoever wrote this, and I don't know, okay? But you all have your own tics. The two tics this student seems to have right now is literally, I'm willing to bet they say that a lot in conversation. And the repetition of phrases. Usually when you repeat whole phrases like the youngest of minds and emotions, that's because you took a really long time in between sentences. You took so long writing them that you forgot you just said that. And again, why am I spending time on this? Some of you are thinking. Whoever wrote this, everyone else in the room immediately noticed that. It announces itself, right? You don't want that. You want us focused on your ideas, right? But now as a reader, we're only focused on the fact that you just repeated like 4 of the same words or whatever, back to back. That takes our attention away from where it should be. So anyway, could we fix that real quick? I'm not in love with the phrase, the youngest of minds and emotions, but we'll leave it. Technology is harming what every day? How do we fix that real quick? What can we say instead? We can do it in a word.
People.
Well, specifically, what's the word we have for young people?
Children.
Oh, look at you guys. You're wordsmiths already. See how easy that was? You can all do this. Anyway. Sorry, children every day and the kids being addicted to devices is, look at, there's a third one. My goodness. Is no help. Okay. Let's actually, we'll fix up the writing a little bit on all these for readability. Throughout the movie, it is implied that the younger people of this generation, hang on. Did they write about the same thing? Exactly. I guess this one's just vague. We'll allow for that. Okay. Younger people of this generation are heavily influenced by social media behavior. Ayla displaces. Displays at dinner is similar to the behavior of an addict going through, you were so close, thank you Google, withdrawals. Okay. Through explanation of what tone the graph provides. You guys are like robots. Okay. Watch this. The graph's tone wow, okay, hang on. Does not remove sympathy by providing statistics. Instead, all right, they were summarizing someone else, so they approached it like that, and I appreciate that, but that, instead, what? The way the graph is represented with shoelaces of the girls. We're not representing a graph, the graph is representing something else. The way the graph is built realize, oh, okay. Another quick thing about writing, and one magic day we may have more time to do this. Verbs are super important. So we talked about ticks today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about verbs real quick. Verbs make your writing go, okay? Now, usually, not all the time, but usually, if you get one good verb, that's what you need for at least a section of a sentence, okay? I would say 85% of the time, if you have two verbs real close to each other, one of them is doing more of the work than the other. And when we're drafting, again, just like in conversation, you're speaking like I am right now. You may make a mistake and then realize you've made a mistake in your own head and offer another verb real quick to fix it. You do the same thing when you write. The trick would be finding those moments that are problematic and fixing. So here, we thought we were going to explain something. And then we realized forces is what we really wanted. So we just take one out. Instead, the way the graph is made out of shoelaces from the girls forces us, look at that, as viewers to realize that there is more to this issue than just numbers. Right? We lost nothing. We got rid of that explains. Okay. So we made these a little more readable. Now what we got to do is figure out if they're saying what we want them to say. Above all, because this is going to be our roadmap, we need argument. And what kind of argument are we making in this paper? There's a word for it. Did you say so strong? That's the name of the text. What kind of paper are we writing? Critique. There you go. That's all. But we have to make sure we're offering a critique. If we're not, then we're not completing the assignment. Okay? We'll take them one by one. By watching the movie, which was a social tragedy for this generation, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say that was them figuring out what they wanted to say. This documentary shows how a device can control the youngest of minds and emotions. All right, the big issue we're going to have in this one is specificity. I'll give you the first one. What kind of device are we talking about? Technology is harming children every day, and the kids being addicted to the devices is no help. I'll give it to the class. Have we, as of right now, offered a critique of the documentary? That's a yes or no. Documentary good, documentary bad. What? Take all the time you need. We got a half hour.
No, we have not.
We have not. Technology is harming children every day, and the kids being addicted to the devices is no help. That's an argument. Whose argument is it? Documentaries. This is the same nonsense we went through on Wednesday, right? Just because we talked about it once doesn't mean you guys summited that mountain. Well, let's do it again then. The first thing we got to do is admit that we screwed up, all right? We don't have an argument here. We just pointed to one the documentary makes. Now, though, we can critique that argument. I guess my first question is, and we're going to have to go back to what they were looking at. How does this documentary show that phones can control the youngest of minds and emotions?
Because on the trial, like, say,
Oh, for the love of God, you guys did the wrong one. All right. It does not fill my heart with hope when we struggle with the simplest of directions. I want to be real with you guys. Ugh. I was worried about that, but you were so vague. It could have easily been the first one. You guys were this one, the number one. Okay. I've never been this bummed out this early in the day. As a class, we'll just do the first one. We're talking about Benji. He's named after a puppy dog, which I think is pretty accurate for that character. He goes to the protest, he gets arrested, right? That's kind of the moment we pointed to on Wednesday. This one is from this class. But we said, as a class, that it's not really that we're thinking about. It's his progression, right? He starts off in that very first scene. Remember the dinner? He's like, you don't have to, no. He's talking to his sister, that whole thing. And we watch his story. We watch him slowly kind of slide into, like he's watching more of these videos. His sister comes to him, she's like, hey man, are you gonna like go to soccer practice? He says, oh, I'm watching the news. She's like, you're watching YouTube, dog. You're not watching the news. And then he doesn't go to soccer practice. We watch the girl who he has a crush on, who apparently is crushing on him too. He just kind of starts ignoring her. Like we watch him slide into, like, you know, sort of becoming this other person, right? And it happens kind of slow. And then by the end, he ends up at this protest, just kind of like, oh, check it out. And he gets arrested. And they seem to make the argument here in this first bit, and it gets in that analysis, that watching it happen over time does what? You can just gloss that real quick, that number one. That's the evidence we're pointing to, that it happens slowly. But what is their critique of that evidence? What happened?
it eases us into the plan economy.
Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't just hit you all at once. It makes it
Okay. So, and we could give a little more legs to that, like easing us into the idea that this kid could be eased into, I don't know, maybe just being associated with political extremism, right? Does that seem like a positive critique, a negative critique? What do you guys think?
For the documentary, it's a positive.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Let's do that down here. Documentary shows, we'll keep basically that. That was just me, just in my way, describing the progression that we're talking about. But let's give some language to this now. We're saying because we see that progression, what's our critique going to be here? Like finish off this sentence. You can even give me another one if you like. We're saying it's a positive, right? It helps make the case that this sort of thing can happen. Why is that? Do you think?
Depends on, obviously that happened in the real world, and that's what he did, but just kind of the way it's represented, the kind of person that character represents.
What do you mean by that?
Like, everybody knows at least somebody that is one of those, like, believes every single thing they see it.
Oh, okay.
And he kind of represents that person in real life.
Who's a little bit naive, a little bit gullible, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that fair? Everybody feels like they know somebody like that? If you don't, you might be that person. Sure. Okay. His attendance runs to extreme center. Effectively, that's our critique, by the way. Makes the case. But their eventual, man, I'm gonna sound like me here. I'm sorry, guys. Succumbing to, you know what? It's Monday and you guys seem dead. Let's just get real fancy. Watch this. Travails is from the French. It means hardships. I could have said hardships, but I didn't, because I'm fancy. Okay. What's our problem with that? Why don't we like that? All right, anyway. So what have we said here? Again, we pointed to something specific. Not just the fact that Benji succumbs to these problems, right? These influences. But that we get to see it gradually. And our critique was that that gradual progression, downfall, whatever you want to call it, effectively makes the case that this sort of thing can happen, right? It seems believable, is what we're saying, because it's gradual. Cool. Number 2, throughout the movie, it is implied that the younger people of this generation are heavily influenced by social media. Behavior Isla displays at dinner is similar to the behavior of an addict going through withdrawals. It absolutely is. That's our evidence, right? They're pointing to that scene where she breaks the safe. Well, actually, I don't know if we talked about that, but that scene's pretty memorable, I imagine, right? Yeah. Do we have critique here? Not quite, but we're damn close. We make an argument, of course it's the documentary's argument, yes. Where is that? Where's the documentary's argument in number 2? What's that? The first sentence. It is implied, that kind of helps you out, right? That's one of those verbs we would use to introduce an argument. That the younger people's generation are heavily influenced by social media. Now look, personally, I would love to be a little more specific here about what, like, in this scene, what we think that influence looks like or what it is. But at the very least, we do have an argument. Now, step 1, I think, is going to be offering a critique. Then we'll see if we can make that more specific. So we're talking about the scene where she breaks into the thing. The whole family is like, what the hell? And she's got goggles and she picks it up. She grabs it in 2 hands, I believe, and like scurries upstairs. The comparison I gave to that class who came up with that one was it felt a little bit like a Golem in the Lord of the Rings movies. I don't know if you... Yeah. It's kind of apt. Like she scurries off into the darkness, right? With her phone. Well, thinking on that scene now, do you guys think it effectively sort of makes the kind of argument we're trying to get at here, or not? What do you think? And again, our argument could be more specific, but right now it's that younger people are heavily influenced by social media, whatever that might come to mean. Do you guys think the scene does a good job of convincing us of that, or not as good? No strong opinions on that. I'll take unsure. Is anyone unsure? What's up? You're unsure?
Yeah.
Look at you. Brave. No one else could even raise their hand.
I think if you change social media to phones, then it'll do a good job of displaying it.
Why do you say that? I'm not disagreeing. I'm just curious.
Because it doesn't specify if she's going to get her phone before social media, if she's just going to get her phone.
Fair. That is you, by the way, being specific. Okay. In other scenes, we see her like specifically on like Instagram and stuff like that. And you can maybe make the case that that's what she, but you don't know that. She might just be texting people, right? Yeah. Good. I like that. Small change, but important. Okay. I guess we want to be even a little more specific. Their phones, right? As opposed to all of them. But you were saying, it seems like you were implying that with that change, now we can say the scene does a good job?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
Because the way she goes to get her phone, she has like a whole scheme, a whole plan of how to get it.
Yeah.
And everything she's going to do, which those addicts, they have a plan to have something,
Like machinations.
yeah, of how they're going to get whatever they're looking for.
They're fixed.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying okay. Something like by showing us I want to say room actually. Yeah, we'll do it up here. It is hang on, because we're not talking about throughout the movie either. Let's help ourselves out. Of arguing that God, I don't know. That's enough. We don't need to hold this. All right. I don't mind that. So we get it kind of in reverse order, which is fine. This is what we're looking at specifically, right? But we introduce the argument first. One thing I would like to do before we move on is if we could get a little more specific. What's that influence? That verb is doing too much work there, right? There are different ways to influence people. And there are different sort of end games for that influence. What has Isla's phone, do you guys think, what has it done to her? That's what you're saying when something influences you, right? It shapes you in some way. What has it made Isla into here, do you think? And again, it can be important to think of the scene. We've talked about what Isla does. What's going on around her? No one else is displaying the behavior she is, right? What's everyone else doing? You guys don't remember? Why is her phone in the safe to begin with?
Because the mom thinks they should put their phones away for dinner.
For dinner. So then everyone else is eating and talking. I was about to say, you guys might not do this, I don't know. But traditionally, when people sit down to dinner, people that know each other, like a family, they might talk to one another. Yeah. Isla's not doing that, is she? If memory serves, she doesn't say anything in the scene. She kind of just disappears into the background until you hear the safe break, they say her name, and she's like, aha, and she like runs away. So what we're saying is the documentary effectively argues something about Isla, the phone has influenced her in some way. I just want like a little better language there. What does that influence look like, do you think? What has it done to her?
It's corrupted her.
Okay, how so? That's just like influence though. That's influence but negative. I'll allow for it, but still, what makes you arrive at that verb? How has she been corrupted? Come on, you gotta have something kicking around in there to come up with that verb. I'm playing through The Witcher right now in my house. When someone's corrupted, that means like a demon has taken them over. They're running through the streets naked, hacking people to bits. Yeah.
She starts like, of course, disobeying her parents.
Yeah.
And that phone, her phone is like, it's the reason she acts up, the reason she disobeys her parents. She was on socialized. It's all, her whole life is based around that.
Okay. Yeah, so it's not just the reason she disobeys her parents, which is true, but it's also the reason she's not involved in the conversation at dinner. It's the reason she kind of fades to the background. It's the reason she scurries upstairs. It's taken over her life in this scene, much like an addict, right? That's a little stronger than influence. Yeah? Okay. Yeah. Or sort of and this is an ugly sentence, but it's all right. Is completely under the, and this is a goofy way to put this, and I'm sorry. That's kind of what we're saying. I think I'm thinking of that because I just mentioned The Witcher. But it's almost like she's under some kind of a spell, right? She's been, I mean, I don't know how you grew up, how your family was. I didn't intentionally break into anything. I definitely didn't do it at dinner. That's bananas. But the scene is kind of making the point, well, she's not herself, right? Like she's influenced, corrupted, but even stronger than that, right? If you're going to use a word like addict, most addicts aren't influenced, right? Like that's on some other, okay. Good enough. We have critique now. And we have specified the argument that we're critiquing. Last but not least, again, for the sake of getting all these looking the same. Okay, this scene, the graph they're talking about, and again, we're using our memories for the sake of time. Also talking about Isla, she is in a later scene on her phone. She posts a picture of herself, and some of her friends are like, "You're so cute, girl." No, and then this one jerk, because that's how the internet works, like basically compares her ears to elephant ears because people are monsters. And she has this scene where she's in the bathroom and she's looking at him. She's like, "They are like elephant ears." Like she's 11, man. That's a hard watch for me. I mean, I have kids. That's probably why. But damn it all. Anyway, while that's going on, they have this other guy come in, this psychiatrist, I believe, some kind of expert, and he's talking about how there's real data for sort of as more popular social media use has become, right, as it's become more rampant, the suicide rate, especially among young girls, has also gone up. And they show you these graphs while he's talking. First, they show you the point where social media kind of really kicked off. I think it's like 2011 or something. And from there, the graph for young women harming themselves and committing suicide just like goes way, 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 way up. And it's kind of shocking. But the other point we make here is that the graph isn't just a line graph, it's made out of shoelaces. Pink and purple shoelaces. The idea being that those are from these young girls, right? Like, pardon the pun, but it ties that information a little bit to kind of who this data is about, right? All right, so that's the scene we're talking about. What do we have to say about it? The graph's tone does not remove sympathy by providing statistics. Instead, the way the graph is made out of shoelaces from the girls forces us as viewers to realize that there is more to this issue than just numbers. Now, we trimmed this some, so it's partially on me, but I think we trimmed the fat. What we're saying here, I'm going to translate it a little bit for the sake of time. There are two ideas going on here at once. Number one, we're addressing the fact that graphs, statistics are useful. Hell, most of you, when you quoted Ansari at me, just quoted statistics at me. You guys love that stuff. So I'm going to ask you real quick, why do you guys love statistics? What's the big deal about statistics? Why do you quote them so much?
They're truthful and they're easy to understand.
What is it, Hazava?
They're truthful and they're easy to understand.
The second one is absolutely dead on. Are they truthful?
Well, when they're credited, yeah, but.
And we always check the sources, right? We always... No. We don't. Usually statistics are correct. They're not sort of misleading, things like, but that's not always the case. But we also don't always check, which is my way of saying we inherently trust statistics, do we not? 70% of when you're like, that must be true. That feels like a scientist probably did a study. We trust statistics implicitly. Okay. Now the danger there is that you just start seeing these girls as numbers. I'm using my memory, but I want to say in the like 11 to 14 age group, something like that, suicides since 2011 have gone up like, it was over 100%. It was like 120% or 140%, something wild like that, okay? That's a big, scary number. But again, the danger is we just see it as a number. We're arguing that the documentary, by using the shoelaces, tries to get you to appreciate that it's not just numbers, right? There's people, there's young women and little girls behind those numbers. My question is, with all of that said, are we critiquing, do you think, here, that argument? The graph's tone does not remove sympathy by providing statistics. Instead, the way the graph is made out of shoelaces from the girls forces us as viewers to realize that there is more to this issue than just numbers. Are we saying at the bottom of everything that the documentary does a good job, a bad job? What do you think? You say good job. Why do you think that? Can you point to something here that we can say absolutely we are critiquing the documentary?
A little bit with shoelaces, kind of makes you wake up, kind of makes you realize it. It's kind of
Okay. Does somebody want to help them out a little bit? And again, before we come to that, which we can talk about that for a minute, I just want to know, like, if we do nothing else today, you have to be critiquing the documentary. That is what the paper is, right? Are we doing that here? See a couple people nodding. Just point to something up here that helps convince me, right? You look, find evidence for me. Where are we offering critique? We are saying, here at number 3, the documentary does a good job of doing this, or the documentary does a bad job of doing this. Do we have it? Again, I will accept unsure. What do you do with the shoelaces from the girls forces us as viewers to realize there is more to this issue than just numbers? What is that? When we say the documentary forces you to realize something, what are we doing? Huh? You guys are just waiting on the clock to run out now, aren't you? What are we forcing the viewer to realize? We'll start there. When we say that these girls are not just numbers, what are we saying? These girls who are killing themselves and cutting themselves are not just numbers. What are we saying?
It shouldn't be normal.
What?
It shouldn't be normal that there's numbers.
The number shouldn't be so high because there's actually a person.
Well, yeah, but
Maybe the numbers don't matter.
what do you mean by that?
Well, because he said that they're not just numbers. Basically, each individual life matters.
So we're reminding the viewer, we're forcing them to realize, to borrow the phrasing here, again, that there are people behind those statistics, right? That they're individuals.
Like it shouldn't you shouldn't have to use numbers to describe
What I mean, they're doing both, is what we're saying, right? They use numbers at first because we trust statistics, like implicitly. But again, they're kind of saying that they try to guard against just viewing them as numbers. So, the last little bit of time we have here, I think there is a critique, and it's implied, which I think is at least part of the reason you guys are so hesitant to help me out there. Where are we implying a critique here? We're going to spell it out a little more firmly, but where are we implying it in number 3? Somewhere in number 3 we are saying that the documentary seems to do a pretty good job. You only have 2 sentences to work with, so I mean, I'll take shots in the dark, I guess. Keenan, where are we offering a bit of a critique there in number 3? Those first 2 sentences. Can you help us out? Somebody's trying to help her out. We do. I'll give it to you. We can say it happens twice. Where in the first sentence? Like specifically.
perhaps tone does not.
Does not remove sentence. That implies that that's something maybe we would want to guard against, right? And we're saying that they do. That seems like what kind of a critique, positive or negative? What?
Or negative.
We're saying that's a bad thing to guard against the loss of sympathy.
Oh, well.
It's a positive critique, right? We're saying that's a good thing to do in this particular case.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Second place we do that. We do it again in the next sentence. Where at?
Maybe
Forces us as viewers to realize. We are realizing, we are being forced to, we say, the argument that the scene is trying to make, right? If a scene forces you to realize an argument it's trying to make, what kind of critique are we offering there? Are we saying it's doing its job or it's not? It is. I'm starting to Tavis apparent. Yeah. But we could be a little stronger if we wanted to. And the film Right? When in doubt, go ahead and really tell me. It's effective, it's not effective, it does a good job, it does well, any of that language, okay? But they did actually imply it in these two sentences, okay? I wanted to get to a thesis today. No shots fired, you guys weren't necessarily the most forthcoming, but I do think we did good work. Again, this document, this is the same document we looked at the other day, actually, right? Or, no, fuck me, it's a different document, I'm sorry. But it's the same information up here. But then down here, what we generated as a class, this is a roadmap. It might be a little bit long in places. We could trim some of it. Again, we were drafting. But this is what a legit roadmap looks like, okay? We would add a hook, we would introduce the text in a sentence or two, and then when we have a thesis, we would have a complete introduction. But how did we do it? We focused on the specific evidence we were interested in, and we made damn sure we had arguments, okay? That's what you got to do in this paper. But this is here for your reference if you want to go back and look at it. Like I said, you just open that email again, it's right there. For next time, I want a thesis and a body paragraph. We will definitely talk about thesis statements next time because that's your homework. But I want that in one body paragraph. Take a real shot at that, see what you can come up with. I also want 2 responses to the discussion post that was due today. If you've not yet done that, I would recommend doing that. But I want 2 responses to 2 of your classmates, okay? Finally, with the no time that we have, I have graded your papers. I have not released the grades yet. I'm going to my office after this class, so I will do it when I get there, probably about 5 or 10 minutes, okay? All of you did okay. Some of you will not be super pumped about your grade, and there's reasons for that. We're going to talk about this next time, okay? What I want you to know as I let you out into the wild is that I let you revise the first paper. The due date, and it's on the syllabus, it's been on there the whole time, is March 8th. So we have a minute on these. The only other thing I want you to know about the revisions, again, we're going to talk about it in more detail next time. If you decide to revise, and I encourage all of you to do that, I replace your grade. I don't do any of that averaging BS, okay? So whatever you got on the first paper, whatever it was, you can get, like, you can make an A, right? And I will replace it. It's like that first grade didn't even exist. Anyway, we'll talk about it next time. As I said, here in 5-10 minutes, I'll release your paper grades. I'll turn it in. I'll see you Wednesday. Thank you.